Welcome to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 109. Let me just double check. I think it's 109. What is it? It's episode 109 of The Joy of Coding. Hello, my name's Mike Conley. Going to be hacking on Firefox stuff as per usual today. Got a little bit of a special episode for you. Come on over and I'll show you. Let me share my screen. This is my screen. It's August 9th, 2017. And a reminder that no plan survives breakfast. I kind of know what I want to do today, only kind of. And I'm going to be making some stuff up as I go. Things might not go according to plan. That's okay. Going off plan is part of the plan. So none of this is really scripted. There's just a general idea of what I want to do, and we'll see how it goes. So strap in. I want to mention that this agenda, for the folks who are new, is available to you. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, scroll down to the additional links section, because there are links to both the agenda and a form to rate this episode, because I'd love you to rate this episode. Same thing goes for the folks who are watching on YouTube. Check out the video description. Link to the agenda and also the rate this episode form. For folks on Facebook, I actually forgot to put in the links just now, so I'm going to do that real quick. Hold on, let me do that off camera. I don't want to show you all my Facebook stuff. Let me just add it as a pinned comment. 1 second. 1 second. I have to, where is it? Where is it? We want it. I need the agenda, and actually what I'll do is I'll find Joy 109. So this is airing right now. I actually forgot. No, don't stop. Accidentally opened a wormhole there. Almost showed you streaming while I'm streaming. So I'm going to write the comment there, and now I'm going to pin that comment so that it's at the top. There you go. So that's on Facebook, and then on Twitch. For the folks who are on Twitch, let me just drop those links into the Twitch chat real quick for you now. There you go. Agenda and rate this episode. So that's done. Okay, so the first thing I want to do today is give a shout out to Sam Foster, who sent a pull request recently to Joy of Coding episode guide, which I invite you to do as well. Sam sent a number of notes for episodes 101, 104, 105, 107, and 108. And that was great. So thank you so much to Sam for adding those notes. You should check those out if you're interested in watching those episodes and want to kind of know what's going on. Maybe you just want to read the notes and not have to watch the whole video. Super, super useful. So thank you to Sam for that. And please send me pull requests. I mean, these episode guides are for you, the viewers. So I mean, if you have notes, stuff you want to add, addendums, appendices, livers and kidneys, just send it on over. Send a pull request. I will happily accept pull requests that are useful, and I'm almost certainly everything will be useful. Like just send the pull request and I'll accept it. So long as it's not like actively hostile, I will accept it. Okay, the first thing I wanted to do today, actually, is respond to a request that was sent to me in the Rate This Episode form, where someone wanted to know what this whole setup looks like. Like, you're seeing this one view of me sitting here in the corner. I'm here in the bottom right here, and you've got my screen here, but it's not clear, like, what is this room I'm in? What machines am I using? What am I glancing at when I look over here or look over here? And what's happening over here? So I'm just going to give you a very brief tour. So I'm going to quickly switch cameras. One moment while I do some stuff. Just a quick second here. Video capture device. check 1 2. That looks more like it. That looks more like it. Okay. So oh, I just realized you couldn't hear me. Sorry, folks. I just realized you could not hear me during all of that. I apologize. Let me fix that. Hello? Hello? Okay, yeah, you can hear me now. Sorry, so sorry. I really hope you're not getting motion sick from me moving the camera like this. I'll try not to like spend too much time on this, but you know, this person really wanted to see what it's like. So I'm inside a meeting room. Smurf D, yeah, you can't hear me. Sorry about that. I've fixed it. Hopefully you can hear me now. Um, Fixed. I'm just writing that in the chat. Give it a few. Okay, so I'm in a meeting room here in the Toronto office, um, and there is a machine over here that I use to like monitor what's going on. See, you can see it's like a couple of seconds behind. I've got my green screen behind me. It's on this rolling whiteboard down here. I've got my laptop, which has a piece of software on it that I'll talk about later, and IRC behind it. So this is my laptop on a little stand. I've got a keyboard here, my hands on my mouse, got my Coke Zero in my wallet out of my back pocket because it hurts when I sit on it. I've got my primary monitor. This is what you normally see. That's where I do most of my work. And so this is what I'm normally looking at when I look to the right, like when I do this. I'm looking at this usually because I'm either reading the chat over here or I'm looking at OBS. And again, OBS is something I'm going to talk about in a second. And so that's really it. I'm sitting in a wheelie chair, standard wheelie chair. My camera work blows. Sorry about that. I've got my tablet over here with Wacky Morning DJ. I'll talk about it in a second. But this is how I kick off my sounds, like um, classics. All right, so now let me put my camera back. Sorry for all the motion. Okay, and now I'm going to switch again back. Okay, so, and yes, you can hear me. So that's basically the rig I've got here. And now I'm looking at OBS again, and now I'm looking at you again. What is OBS? So OBS is this piece of software that I use to broadcast to various streaming services like Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Air Mozilla. It is free. It is open source. It is cross-platform. I highly recommend it. I love this piece of software. It's really, really solid. And even if you're not streaming, if you're trying to do like screen capture with audio and maybe different scenes for screen capture, maybe you want to like do some processing on that screen capture, OBS Studio is actually a really great choice. It has a ton of features. I can't recommend it enough, and this is what I use to broadcast. It can stream to RTMP servers, and that's what I'm doing right now. So OBS Studio, and here in the agenda is a link to the settings that I use in OBS if you care. So if you open up the settings in OBS and you want to use the exact same settings I'm using, this is what I do right here. What else? So that IRC client that You saw behind OBS, that's Lime Chat. Normally I use something called IRC Cloud when I'm at work. However, whenever I'm live streaming, I like to use Lime Chat because I put Lime Chat in all of the IRC channels that I want to be able to get alerts from. And it also has my IRC nick with a pipe live hacking after it. So that way people, if they're like talking to me, they know that I'm online. I'm going to be live streaming. The stuff that they say might show up in these little alert bubbles up here, hopefully publicly, or hopefully they know it's going to be public, so that, you know, this tries to discourage people from like saying, hey, here's that password I told you about, and sends it to me over IRC, and then it shows up in the corner, and I have to go like, oh no, you know, that just leaked out onto the whole internet on a video stream. So I use Lime Chat. So I broadcast from OBS to a server that I run, an Nginx server. I actually used to pronounce this Nginx for the longest time. It's actually Nginx. So I built Nginx, which is an open source, a sort of lightweight, normally an HTTP server. I think that's what most people use it for. But there's an RTMP module that you can build into it, and these are the instructions to build the RTMP module. And I basically followed these to the letter. And then I run Nginx on that server, and I stream to it, and I've configured it to repeat the stream that it gets to the to like all the different services. So that's YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and AirMozilla, which all speak RTMP. And presumably I could add more, but I've currently got it set to 4 different streaming services. So I do that myself. I know that there are like other services you can use. Like there's one called Restream.io that will multi-stream for you. This is essentially what I'm doing. Like OBS goes into Nginx for me, and then it goes to all these services. But instead of using Restream.io, which is maybe a great platform, I've never used it before, I do it for free using the Nginx RTMP module. And then the last thing I want to mention is Wacky Morning DJ. Wacky Morning DJ is something I actually wrote a long time ago. If you want me to go through like a deep, in-depth discussion of the architecture and choices, you might want to check out episode, I think it's 16 or 17 of The Joy of Coding. Let me see if I can find it, because I think back then I was, yeah, it was episode 16. So I'll actually put a link on my in the blog entry. There you go. And that talks about some of the architecture. This is way back in the day, back when I would do like a quick blog post about what I was doing with The Joy of Coding. I don't do that anymore, unfortunately. I don't blog enough. But anyways, Wacky Morning DJ is what I've been using to play all my sounds, and I showed it to you on my tablet. But if you look at it here, I can call up the server. Was it 3,000? It's on a local server running on my laptop, but I browse to it on the network using my tablet, so I can like, you know, trigger sounds from my tablet and not have you see all these buttons. But these are the buttons I'm normally hitting. They've got all my sounds, and that's just playing sounds on the laptop. It's like using some kind of like OS X command line thing to just say like, play a sound, which is pretty simple. And the sounds are actually then, there's 2 other pieces of software I want to talk about really briefly, Soundflower and Line In. So Soundflower is like a virtual sound device. I think Soundflower for Mac. I think, where is there? Yeah. It's a virtual audio input and output device for Mac OS, and that's what I essentially like. When you install it, it becomes another thing that I can like output to in my sound settings. So here I've got my input settings. I'm saying like I've listened to my headset here, which is a Plantronics Audio 648 USB headset, but I also have these other inputs, 16-channel Soundflower and 2-channel Soundflower, and then in my output, I'm actually outputting to 2-channel Soundflower. So all my sound goes into Soundflower. That's like all my desktop sounds, but all like browser sounds, anything that would normally come through my speakers, I'm actually sending through Soundflower. And then I have OBS use the Soundflower as an input device, so I can stream all of the stuff that's normally coming through my speakers. I can just route it, essentially. Anything I want to go out in the internet, it all goes into Soundflower, and then OBS takes Soundflower and puts it into the stream. And finally, I have this piece of software called Line In. Line In Mac. I think that's Line In for Mac. Also from the same people who built Soundflower, I think. Maybe. Check out the new sound source. Oh, wow. I guess they've like upgraded it. Maybe I should get a new one, a new copy. I won't mess with it for now, but I use this old software that I guess is now discontinued called Line In, now called Sound Source. And what that does is it allows me to take the stuff that's going into Soundflower 2-channel and monitor it in my headphones here so I can actually hear them as well. So essentially all of the stuff that you hear is also what I hear, so I hear all of the sounds.
It's me, Mario!
So I know that they're working, but then I can also like, control which sounds exactly I want to go through OBS. And that's it. That's all I do. I mean, everything else is like pretty straightforward. I've got my web browser here. I use Sublime 3 as my text editor. I use iTerm 2, I think. iTerm 2 as my terminal. What else? I'm running OS X Yosemite, I think. Yeah. On a MacBook Pro from the mid-2015s. Probably in a couple of... Maybe in the next couple months, I'm probably going to switch to a Windows machine. That's going to be traumatic, but I think that's probably a good idea. I don't know if there's anything else I want to mention. So for the people who are curious about my setup, feel free to ask questions in IRC or send me email. I see that the fellow who actually asked for the tour is hanging around in IRC, so feel free. If this didn't answer your question, I will do my best to try and answer them. But I would like to get on to hacking and working on some code. So I'm going to call this tour concluded for now. Okay, so that was that. 19 minutes in. What do I want to work on? I want to work on this bug. This is a performance bug that has to do with tab switching. So maybe you've probably heard me talking about tab switching. If you're a long-time viewer, it was like a problem. It was like a thing that I've been trying to tune and improve for a long time, especially ever since E10S came along. There were some tab switching performance problems that we had to sand down, and I think we've gotten to a good place. I think there are improvements to still be made, and this is one of the improvements I'd like to make. Apparently this is a very functional setup and wouldn't go very well on our Mac setups. Yeah, I guess that's a very polite way of saying that it's a little ugly. I don't argue the point. It is like, yep, this works for me. I mean, look at all the icons I have on my desktop. This is ridiculous. It's not pretty, but it works, and that's how I roll. That's kind of that should be like the tagline for the joy of coding. It's not pretty, but it works. The joy of coding. Oh, it's not pretty, but it works. There you go. So going back to the Async Tab Switcher. So really briefly, what goes on is when you choose a tab, when we're switching tabs, we actually tell the content process, hey, I'm turning on this tab. Paint for me. Do it right now. Paint, upload those layers to the compositor, which is a thread in the parent process on, I think, OS X and Linux. It's a completely separate process on Windows. So I guess that doesn't really matter. But basically upload it to this different thread, which is then going to send it to the GPU for compositing. And by compositing, I mean like putting together. So it composites the content area with the outer browser window UI stuff, and then that's presented to the user as pixels. And that all kind of occurs asynchronously. We have this thing called the Async Tab Switcher. When you click down We send an asynchronous message to the content process that says, show me this tab, and then we wait. We don't actually switch the tab until the content process has painted, which is generally pretty fast, sent that layer or those layers to the compositor. The compositor says, I've received it, and then we do the switch, because then we can do it quickly, or like we can do it immediately. So every time I'm clicking here, I'm actually, all of that messaging is taking place, and we're doing the paint and then the upload, and all this stuff happens pretty quickly. Now sometimes those uploads don't occur quickly, or like the paint takes a long time, or the content process is just busy, and so we run out of time. The parent has said, hey, paint, and let me know whenever the layers are ready so I can switch this tab. And if that doesn't happen within a timeout, and currently that timeout is like 400 milliseconds, then we show the tab spinner of doom, which is this little thing in the middle, this little spinny ball in the middle, because we had to do something. We 400 milliseconds later, we still haven't got any layers. We have to show the user something to at least seem responsive. And so, unfortunately, that's what we've got right now, is we have that little spinner. And one of the things I want to do is try and make it possible to preemptively warm up tabs when we think that they're about to be switched to. So for example, when I hover my mouse over this tab, it's possible that I'm not going to click this tab, but it's actually quite possible that I am. If I leave this here and then hit the mouse button, there's a number of milliseconds there, maybe even hundreds of milliseconds, that can be used to say like, hey, paint now, do it now, and like warm up. And then when I click, everything's just kind of ready. Same thing goes for like closing tabs. When I close a tab, I'm going to be choosing another tab. The one that's currently selected will go away, and I'll select another tab. And so if I hover this close button, we could warm up the tab that I'm likely to switch to if I actually click down. And now I might not click down. I might move my mouse away. So this warm up kind of has to happen is like a speculation. Like, we're warming up just in case, but it's possible, like we need to account for the possibility that the user is going to bail out, or we're wrong, that the user didn't actually cause the switch to occur. So that we have to include that in the design as well. But that's what I'm hoping to be able to do. And we need to clamp how many things we warm up. We really don't want to have the content process like have all of these tabs up and running and painting, because that's expensive computationally if they don't need to be around. So after some amount of time, if we haven't selected the warmed up tab, we should just like shut it down again. So that's the idea, more or less. And I'm going to close these other tabs because I don't need them anymore. Boop. And I have put together a brief plan here, which I don't think I really want to super go through right now because I think it's going to take the rest of the episode. But I got some feedback from another developer. One of my favorite engineers here at Mozilla, Bill McCloskey, gave me some feedback on how we could approach this. It was a grand simplification on what I had originally suggested. I'm fully behind this, so this is what I'm hoping to implement. I'm just starting to break that down into like more brass tacks, like a concrete implementation plan. So that's where I am right now. In the planning phase before we actually get going. And like, no plan survives breakfast. I'm gonna lay out a potential roadmap to give me a sense of how I want to do it, so I'm not just like improvising. I really kind of want to think it through so I can see any problems that might crop up, to try and see any problems that might crop up, even though that I might not catch. We might notice a problem during implementation. That happens, but at least I'm going to put in the effort to try and plan ahead a little. Not Fifi queue, FIFO queue. So we're adding a first in, first out queue. It's an array, I guess, because it's ordered to the Async Tab Switcher structure. Ensure that the array is empty in the finish function. And then with an assert, and then clear it out, no matter what. so that, or we don't need to clear it out. So make sure it's empty with an assert. We don't need to clear it out because the async tab switcher goes away once all the switches have completed it, like garbage collects itself. In set tab state, so when we choose a tab and say like go into the loading state, add it to the queue. This is actually wrong. Add a warm up tab function to the async tab switcher and a convenience convenience method for access on tab browser. So you should be able to, for example, then do this: gbrowser.warmup tab, some tab. Just do that, and this should always return silently. Should always return silently. Whether or not it's even possible to warm up the tab, it should just, like, this is a sort of a thing that we hope to be able to do. It might not always succeed. Maybe we should log when it fails, but this should never like explode. There's really not a whole lot we want to do if it fails, except maybe learn from it. So maybe logging would be nice. Then in warm-up tab, in the async tab switcher warm-up tab method, set state of the tab to state loading, and hang on, how do I want to do this? I need to like go back and see how the async tab switcher works. Unload timer. If there's an unload timer already in progress, don't do anything. Otherwise, create a new, or maybe not don't do anything, perhaps extend it. Already in progress, cancel it and overwrite it. I think, is that what Bill said? We use different timeout. Okay, so an existing timeout would be cleared. Temporary reprieve, okay. Cancel it and overwrite it. Set state load, state loading if there's no. Cancel it and overwrite it. Put the tab inside the FIFO queue, taking any overflow out and setting it to state unloading. Yeah, not do this stuff. Then when we request a tab, request tab, unload timer, we'll clear it here. Start tab Switch requested tab, pre-actions. And then hopefully in here, one of the tabs that we've requested has already got state loading set on it, or is maybe already even loaded, which would be great. Then we might be done at that point. Just kind of murmuring out loud here. Sorry if I'm not being super clear. I'm trying to find any holes. The Async Tab Switcher is a really complex piece of software. It's like this giant state machine that has to deal with all these like async things that are going on, and it's very complicated. I don't really like you working on it, or like working on it. Let me see here. Okay. So let me think it through. Warm up tab goes in the FIFO queue. Pop anything out and set it to state unloading. So we unload it. Because that's what the unload timer does, right? Unload timer. Unload timer. On unload timeout. We'll periodically scan to see if there are any tabs that we can say are unloaded or unloading. And if there's still any left, then we'll do this. Okay. Okay. So we warm up, we set a tab to state loading. Anything that gets pushed out of the queue gets state unloading. So, and anything that's requested has to get removed from the queue. That's the last part. Yeah. And it gets modify request tab to remove the tab from the FIFO queue if it's in there. Right? As soon as it's requested, it's no longer being warmed up. It's been taken off the bench. Okay. I think I've got a sense of it now. Let's try it out. I've got, what have I got on the tree? This little like test fix I did. Nothing big. Let me bump up the font here. Get out of this virtual env that I don't need. And then let me just make it so that you can see what I'm seeing more clearly. And check OBS to make sure that, yeah, you can see it. For some reason, you can't see all the way to the bottom of my screen. I don't think I've configured the dimensions properly. The stuff coming out of my HDMI cable into my laptop and going into this monitor, the dimensions are not exactly right. So you can't see, for example, down here, but so there's like an inch and a half of screen real estate that I just don't use whenever I'm streaming. Okay. So let's first start by adding the array to the switcher. Tab state. We want it. We want an array because we want ordered. Warming tabs, warming up tabs. What should we call this? Warming tabs is what I'm going to call it. New array. I'm just going to use the square brackets. And then max warming tabs. I'm just going to pick an arbitrary number of 3. warming timeout, warming delay. Maybe we should call it tab switch timeout. Warming unload delay. We'll make that like 2,000 milliseconds. I'm just picking numbers out of the air. Maybe these should be prefable. So yeah, really need to think about these numbers, but for now I'm just going to hard code some values in. So we've got these warming tabs, and then inside finish, which is whenever this thing starts to go away, this dot assert this dot warming tabs dot length equals 0. Okay. Now what do I want to do? So I've done the queue. We're going to add a warm-up tab. I'm actually going to put this near request tab because they're sort of related. Warm-up tab. To do, and then I'm going to add a convenience. Browser. Switcher. All of this stuff. Method name equals warmup tab, and then it takes an argument or a parameter name equals a tab. Warmup tab then does this dot get switcher dot warmup tab a tab. We should probably only do that if get switcher. Yeah, all right. There are certain things that we can do right away. Like if a tab is, if not tab dot linked panel or tab dot closing. I think that's what tab dot closing. Tabs closing. Return. Or tab dot linked browser. Linked browser dot linked browser dot is remote browser. If it's not a remote browser, then we're not going to be doing any warming up. Or if the tab is crashed, tab dot linked browser dot frame loader dot tab parent. If the tab is not yet inserted, closing not remote, or crashed, warming up this tab makes no sense. So we should bail out. So we bail out. Okay, now that we have our, yeah, we've got that. Set the state of the tab to state loading. So we have this tab here. We're going to, oh, if we've already requested this tab, tab equals this dot requested tab. Crashed or already requested, warming up the tab makes no sense. Or this dot get tab state tab equals this dot state loading. Oh, you know, I'm gonna actually do this in the next, like, or tab equals this requested tab. Similarly, if the tab is already in state loading or state loaded somehow, there's no point in, well, this set tab state already kind of like set tab state. Does it already take care of that for me? Not really. So warm up tab. Trying to warm it up. Let state equals this dot get tab state tab if state equals this dot state loading or state equals this dot state loaded. Return. Okay, so now we're pretty confident that this thing is something that we do want to warm up. So let's add it to the queue. This dot warm up tabs, warmed up tabs, warmed up, warm up tabs, warming tabs. This dot warming tabs dot, oh, right, you know, this dot assert state equals this dot state unloaded. Huh? No, I can't. I don't think I can make that assertion. Well, I mean, of course it's going to be either unloaded or unloading. Push tab. And then if this dot warming tabs dot length is greater than this dot max warming tabs, let evicted equal this dot warming tabs dot shift. So we've evicted the tab. How do we want to do this? If we've evicted one, then it's never been requested. Oh, it doesn't make sense to warm up the visible tab either. Tab equals this dot visible tab. Already visible or already requested. Warming up the tab makes no sense. Evicted equals this, take this tab. If evicted is not equal to this dot requested tab and evicted is not equal to this dot visible tab, or maybe I should assert evicted is not equal to this dot requested tab, assert evicted is not equal to this dot visible tab. This dot set tab state evicted state unloading. This dot set tab state loading. And then we add our timeout. Timer, if unload timer, essentially this. If unload timer, clear the unload timer, and then we say warm unload delay, which is what? Warming unload delay. Not my best. Set timeout. This timeout. Tab equals the requested tab. And then I should probably log warm up tab. That is warming equals this dot warming tabs index of tab. If tab, if is warming, cum plus w. Warming. Log state. Okay. Then we want to remove requested tabs. This let warming index equal this dot warming tabs dot index of tab if warming index is greater than -1 or not equal to -1, then this dot warming tabs dot, I think it's splice. I can never remember the arguments. Empty array splice start, and then having to delete warming index 1. We're just going to take the 1 out. Log removing state. Oh. Removing tab. Warming list. This dot tinfo tab. That might do it for now. Let's turn on logging. And now let's build it. All right. And then we can start messing with this a little bit. So we have all these tabs here. These are all remote tabs that we could potentially warm up, not the about config one. Some of these new tabs, Reddit and example domain. So I'm going to shrink this window down. I'm going to shrink this window down. I'm actually going to simplify this a little bit. I'm going to get rid of some tabs on the right so we don't have so many. That'll help. Done. Why do we have the W everywhere? It shouldn't be warming. Is warming is index of tab is not equal to -1. That's why. So let's build that again. Okay. I'm actually going to reduce the font size a little. Just a little bit, make it a little easier to see. Yeah, I can bump it up a little. Okay. So nothing's being warmed, but there's like a lot that goes on when we switch a tab. But nothing gets warmed up. That's good. So now I'm going to like try and use the interface a little bit. gbrowser.warmup tab, gbrowser selected tab. Now it should finish. Initial tab is loaded, true. Start. Return. If we return early, I wonder what we should do. Post actions. maybe destroy ourselves. Finish log state done. Maybe we should do post actions, pre-actions. So maybe warm up tabs should also do pre-actions and post actions. This dot pre-actions. Um, Maybe I can simplify this a little bit. Put this in here. Maybe it's not the worst thing in the world. Like if I do request tab, get switcher, request tab, gbrowser.selected tab. Nothing happens and the switcher still exists. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's okay. Warm up tab. So maybe all of that stuff I just did is actually not necessary. I think that's okay. No need to destroy ourselves. Okay. So warming tabs, nothing happens, nothing happens. Now what if I take this current tab and I'm going to add it to our list, or I'm going to hold a reference, let t equal g browser to selected tab. Okay, so I got a reference to it. Now I'm going to warm up that tab. What happens now? Warming up tab. And the assertion fails. Tab should be blank. Tabs remote true. Assertion failure on 4217. 4217. That the warming tab. So if we remove, if we're unloading a tab, we should definitely be removing it from tab state. State equals state unloading. warming index equal this dot warming tabs dot index of tab if warming index is not equal to -1. Warming tabs dot splice. That's if we unload it from some other means. And then there was an error there, something about state loading, and I missed it. Did I get it somewhere in here? Yeah, right here. This dot state loading, that's why things got a little weird. Okay, let t equal selected tab. I'm going to warm up t, and then the warm up was done. Good. Now let's warm it up. So let's see what happened there. I warmed up the tab and then I selected the tab. I warmed up one, warming, and then it showed up, and then request tab 1, and I already had it. Switch to tab 2, and then done. Tab switch time was 64 milliseconds. That's interesting. So let's do like a little test here. Let's do warm up tab, then set timeout. gbrowser.selected tab equals t, and we'll do that after 100 milliseconds. So I'm going to warm up the tab, wait 100 milliseconds, and select the tab. And we're going to see what the tab switch time was. Warm up the tab, and we request the tab. Switch to tab 2, done. Tab switch time was 32 milliseconds. Okay. Now let's do that without the warming up. So 32 milliseconds, and now tab switch time was, what? 8 milliseconds. Request tab. Tab. Switch to tab 2. Wait, what happened here? Request tab, loading tab 1. Tab should be blank. Request tabs remote true. Begin loading, and then the layers were ready. The tab switch time was only 8 milliseconds. That's way shorter. That's exactly what you want, super short. People are sending me a ton of messages. I need to not think about that for a little while. I don't think any of these are emergencies though. Just making sure that there are no emergencies. Okay. Why would that have failed? Let's look at the last log again up here. Request tab 2, and tab switch time was 16. Oh, that was before, whenever I switch back. Warm up tab 1. Tab should be blank. False. Done. Moving tab from warming list. Request tab 1. Switch to tab from 2 to 1. Then why was the tab switch time 32 milliseconds? Tab switch time. This time times time elapsed from tab switch total E10s milliseconds from the start of tab switch to the end of tab switch. Start tab switches here. Start tab switches. We request the tab. Then maybe finish. Tab switch happens in post actions or when the layers are ready. Oh. Layers ready. On layers clear up fires when we paint the screen. Maybe visible. We made this because we can't be sure when tabs actually drawn. Tabs out of the set when we asked to make it visible. Tabs with the most recently shown tab are removed from the set. Okay, I don't think we want to mess with that. I feel like the problem is that the Async Tab Switcher isn't optimized or set up to handle the case where the tab's already around. Warm up tab on Reddit. Layers are ready. Request tab. Removing tab from the warming list. Tab should be blank. Requested tabs remote. Switch from tab 2 to 1. This happens inside update display. 2 to 1. Switch to tab 2 to 1. And then it says that the tab switch time. Why would what ends up calling maybe finish tab switch? That's what I want to know. Log stack Pair.stack. Build that up. All right. So now warm up the tab. We get it because we paint. Whereas if we don't warm up the tab, why would we get it? Because the layers are ready. Maybe finish tab switch. Maybe finish tab switch. Happens in post actions. Maybe we should just like do this. Okay. A lot of logging, that's okay. So let's do our measurement again. So with warming up the tab, wait 100 milliseconds. Tab switch time was super fast. And then otherwise, tab switch time, 10 milliseconds. Interesting. Okay, so we might have a working solution here. I'm going to now add warming to the hovering thing. So when we hover tabs, hover tab, mouse enter. Mouse enter. What is it? Is mouse enter on the G browser? Mouse enter? No. Tab container. Tab container, tab browser, warm up tab. Visible tab, candidate. What is this? What are we? We are a tab. Oh, okay. Warm up tab, this. So maybe that'll use our API now. Okay. Interesting. So that appears to work. Now I wonder if like we get the HTML spec loading in here. That's gonna cause us to spin a little. 'Cause are these in the same process? I think I'm. Yeah. Wish I had something that was like really like CNN is notoriously brutal to paint. That's not bad. Hmm. Hmm. Let's just play with this for a little bit. Like, see if we can make it break. I'm gonna turn off the logging for a little bit. But we might have something here. Just gonna switch tabs a lot. Hovering tabs, warming them. Alright. What else is notoriously difficult to paint? Slow tab. I think there are a couple of bugs where 48 tab. Yeah. There's some web pages in here that might be slow to paint. Motorsport. This one apparently does it. Or at least it used to. Seems okay. Yeah, it's hard for me to say whether or not this is having any kind of impact. We'd really need to like add some telemetry probes. But you know what? We might have something that works here. I'm gonna sort of like I'm gonna commit this right now as a first draft anyways. Add API to tab browser to speculatively warm up tabs for tab switching. Bill's going to be my reviewer. And you know what? I'm actually going to call this a day. I think that's enough live hacking for today. Thank you so much for watching The Joy of Coding. I hope that was interesting. I am, I think, away next week. Let me write that down in here. I am away next week. And let me just check my calendar. I don't know how many Wednesdays I'm going to be around for the rest of August. Let me just check. Calendar. So I'm gone next Wednesday, but I'm back the Wednesday after, and then I'm gone the Wednesday after that. That's the story. And then it evens out a little bit. So I will be gone. There will be no episode next week, but there will be an episode after that, the week after that. But there won't be an episode the week after that. And then it evens out again. That's the story. So hold on to your hats. Maybe go back and watch some older episodes next week, and maybe add some notes to the episode guide. That would be amazing. The Joy of Coding episode guide, which is right here. There are notes for episode 1 here. There's a note here for episode 108. That was the last one. Go for it. You know, I'll just merge it all in. So, thumbs up situation. Thanks for watching. I hope that was useful. I hope that was interesting. And I will see you the week after next. Have yourselves a great week. Have yourselves a great afternoon. And take care. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.